last time on night school at Vesperale Academy. Our adventures take us from deep in the dungeons below Castle Vesperale up into the wider world outside. Now, we've been exploring with Chu for a while here, but when we left off, we were on our way out of the castle. But how did we get here? Well, Illyria is a young human from the frigid north, up in the Oxbends. Igor is from a gate town to the southern edge of the towers. The towers, of course, being Residus Towers, the one city in all the realms of Residus. There is just one city, a massive, sprawling mega metropolis full of magic, and this is where we find ourselves. We've had a full campaign. You can find that over in the links, but we've had a full campaign in the towers themselves. But now in campaign number 2, we find ourselves out in the frontier, outside of the towers. We followed these two as they're just trying to make their young way in the world. But they run up against some trouble. Igor manages to find himself dead, and Illyria gets themselves bit. And the two of them are now Duskin. Duskin being the blanket term for the creatures of the night, vampires, ghosts, lycan. These folk are in for hard lives, and as such, some of the more powerful, large secret groups of Duskin, especially the vampire house Dahlia, they have coordinated to put together a secret school called Vesperale Academy here in Castle Vesperale. It's in the near frontier, the shallow frontier, near the town of Dawngreet, and hidden, tucked away a little bit into the forest here. But that exact positioning does make their lives a little bit more difficult, because to the north is lycan territory and to the south is vampire territory, and it seems that that conflict is brewing once again. As Igor and Illyria attend classes, discover a little bit more about themselves, Igor about how his ghostly form is going to help or hinder him in his life, and then Illyria trying to understand what it's like, what it's going to mean for them to become a wolf once every month. The two of them have found a new home. But this new home is under threat. Most recently, House Dahlia has positioned some additional forces inside the castle in the form of clerics. The Conservatri is a program among the sort of House Dahlia clerics in which their special bond to blood makes them, if they're able to focus, very adept healers with some special skills. House Dahlia has positioned a large unit of these clerics here, and the rest seems to be coming from the north, the rest of this conflict. This forest, which stretches to the north, it's full of lycan, living in hiding, and pushing south, it would seem. But as Illyria has made friends with some of the local lycan here inside the castle, especially Chu, the leader of the werewolf gang, the largest sort of active lycan group, we'll call them a club, Illyria has begun to understand that there's more going on out in the forest than meets the eye. As Illyria was being introduced to Gambler's Fall, the cave network underneath the waterfalls at the far edge of the castle grounds, and sort of the lycan hangout, the secret lycan hideout, refugees began to pour out of the woods, and the sounds of conflict ring out over the forest. The refugees seem to be almost exclusively lycan, and they're being pushed south by something. We know that there is at least one threat in the area to Duskin. We know of the Lucabruska Hunters, explicitly dedicated Duskin Hunters. They've been a little bit more quiet recently, but as Igor helped out in the infirmary, one of these victims of some assault out there in the forest exclaims that it was vampires responsible for this. Chu has sworn revenge, and now Illyria and Igor try to catch up with Chu's gang on their way out of the castle, as Chu has sworn this revenge and intends to get it. Hey, you're like, we'll figure it out, okay? You're not going to be in trouble.
Oh, you most certainly are going to be in trouble. Danny, don't you tell them that.
Just come back inside and we'll get this all figured out.
Oh, I've got it figured out already. They're going to be put in the stocks.
From the other side of the door, we can hear Danny shouting, trying to get us back in, and somewhere deeper beyond, in the Barbican, Corzon, with his ram's horns tangled up in vines, he shouts, threatening what punishments may follow this bit of mutiny on the part of Illyria and Igor. Illyria and Igor are now in the Welcome Hall. The Welcome Hall is this horrifying hall of traps that runs alongside the Barbican, and as such, this door from the Barbican has opened into a slightly shorter section of this passage. We don't have to go up the very long sort of upward ramp of the majority of it, but we still do have a bit of this room to clear. We've got all these glowing eyes on us now. Not quite the glow of the moon, but the glow of an animal with torchlight reflecting off of their strange night eyes. But these are all people that we stand in front of. As Illyria desperately holds onto the ring of this door because it locks from the other side, not from this side, as Danny tries to get this door open to retrieve us. We're holding this door closed, and behind us at the far end of the hall, there is Chu. I was hoping for a quieter exit, but here we are. We've got some revenge to take. All right, you lumps, get him down here. The lumps in question are some of the remainder of Chu's gang. We see Steele, who is pretty close by us here, and as Illyria leans back just a little too far, suddenly, shink, a tiny little pinpoint of light coming from the ceiling suddenly drops a spike that falls right along Illyria's shoulder, slicing off a tiny bit of hair, but Illyria did not end up in its path because Steele put a hand on their back just in time.
Hey, be real careful, okay? We're gonna get you safe through here, but this situation just got pretty sticky. All right, Chu, we're on our way.
Don't take too long. All these eyes coming from these little hoodlums, these little scamps that are all part of Chu's gang. One of them nestled in the arms of a stationary suit of armor here, looking down at the proceedings, getting ready to leap off when the time is right. People hanging from the wall, sort of angled outward like mountain climbers, hanging from braziers and looking down at the floor where much of the danger lies. Now, of course, pulling on these braziers is no small bit of danger either. As we stand here, stock still for a moment, Steel starts to give out some orders.
All right. Get like a wedge underneath that plate there. Yeah, okay. If we can get you past this scythe, I think we should be able to get you around the fire trap, and then it's going to be pretty easy going from there. You're just going to have to watch your step and move really slowly, okay? No sudden movements once you get past the fire trap. Hey, Monty, over here.
A hulking lad comes from the shadows, very narrowly avoiding this little pinprick of light that seems to act like a magical tripwire of some sort, and grabs onto the ring in the door. Illyria is stocky. Illyria, able to hold their own, but Monty is enormous, and with an arm braced up against the door frame and both hands clutched inside this ring, Monty holds onto the door and nods silently to Illyria. Illyria quietly releases hold here. Meanwhile, on the other side of the door, the knocking continues. Hey, we can sort this out. I just really need you to come back inside. Come on, come back out. Steel guides us as we take our tentative steps, both Illyria and Igor, because although Igor may have an easier time avoiding harm by certain things, some of these traps are definitely meant to interact with ghosts as well. Because if there's one thing that we've discovered here, it's that conflict does not stay outside of Duskin spaces. Let's see how we do. It's going to take 2 decent rolls to, actually 3 to get fully across this section of the hallway. This hall of traps is no joke. Even just a short way, we have a considerable little distance to tread here, and it is absolutely chock full of traps. Illyria takes some tentative steps, holding on to a brazier when indicated by a fox-faced girl, stepping onto a plate that has 3 of Chu's gang standing around it, each of them with a little sort of metal wedge, looks like some climbing gear almost, a little metal wedge wedged into the floor, preventing this stone from sinking down and triggering something terrible. Illyria manages to waltz through here quietly, carefully, and they arrive in front of a section of the hall that seems warmer than anywhere else. From the wall to the left, there is a seam in some of the brickwork here, which it might seem like a crack to the unobserved eye. It might seem like just sort of derelict stone masonry, and yet there is a gentle geyser of steaming hot air coming from there that we know is not the hottest thing that could be emerging if we step improperly. Igor, let's see how you fare. Fantastic. You also succeed in getting past the first, no problem. That's without any help even. Meanwhile, as you float across this stone, you can see that the gang members here start to pull these wedges out after Steele manages to make his way across, and a number of them go over and approach the door where Monty stands, and after some quiet conferring, they start to wedge these metal wedges underneath the door, and then turn around, breathe heavily, including Monty himself, and make a running jump to cross this big stone here, and manage to land beside us. All topsy-turvy. Everyone sort of catches a hold of each other to make sure nobody falls into bad territories. We hear kind of a slice in the darkness, but everyone's unharmed. Steele says,
Now the trick here is to spin out of the way. We know that crossing this air is sort of what triggers it, so you gotta spin so it doesn't really, register that you're here. Just spin away from it. Watch me.
He leaps forward, does a spin sort of around it, almost as if he's rolling off this little curtain of hot air that comes out, and little spits of fire come jetting out of this crack, but nothing seems to really register. It doesn't fully roast him. He nods. Over at the far end, these wedges in the door seem to be holding tight for now, but Danny continues to bang on the door. All right. Hey, I'm losing my patience here. I think there was a time when you and we could have sort of seen eye to eye on this, but now, starting to lose my patience. Illyria goes next. All right, Igor, follow close to me, and don't get blown away by this hot wind like you did up in the tower. Illyria leaps forward, and crossing this curtain of hot air, a massive jet of fire gouts out from the wall, from this jagged crack in the wall, and it does manage to catch Illyria. Illyria falls to the ground next to Steele, who manages to keep them outside of any other traps, but Illyria's shoulder has caught a significant burn, and across their neck and the back of their neck as well. Illyria sort of shies away from their clothing as this burn starts to register, and oh, that sucks. Oh. Igor, be careful. This fire trap is no joke. Igor, you're up next. Igor thinks it doesn't seem like this is the first time these people have been here. And looking around, it certainly appears that Chu's gang has a bit of a system for this. Chu's gang, we could anticipate that they are probably sneaking out of the castle as regularly as they can, but they certainly have some systems in place here. They've brought some gear, they know some of the patterns here, and it seems like they are no slacks when it comes to trying to navigate the Welcome Hall. Igor, against a 3 and a 10. You rolled a 6. I don't think you can beat a 10. You would need a +5. And as such, that is a partial success. Even if you use your haunt, no, you're at 0 haunt because you had to use your very last bit. And so you are currently at 0 haunt. You're going to need to remanifest before you want to use that again. You are blown against the wall here. This fire it seems like it jets you almost out of its own path, and you think for just a moment that you might be safe here, but then you've been blown off course by this jet of fire, and in the darkness, a tangle of sharp wires that seem to be made of something that stings whips out of the opposite wall that you've just been blown over toward, and spins around, and you feel yourself in considerable pain as it catches you in the leg, up high in the leg. You stumble back over toward the center of the room where Illyria tries to catch hold of you and barely manages to do so in your ghostly form. You are a little worse for wear. It's taken a bit of edge off of your spirit here. We've got one more hurdle to get over here. This one is less dangerous, but it's not going to be a nothing. It's not going to be nothing.
All right. No, you're doing good. You're doing good. I know it burns and it stings, but we had to map our way through a lot of this before we learned how to get out of the castle safely. And I guess maybe safely is kind of an overstatement.
He pulls the leg of his trousers up a little bit, and on one of his ankles we can see that there is a considerable burn there.
If you come this way enough, you're gonna get burned. It just happens.
One more. Becoming a little bit more distant now as we are right in front of the door to Tower Skullaport. This next bit is just a matter of slow going. There are little bars of moonlight that seem to be coming from odd angles in the roof. Most odd, of course, because they don't all come from the same angle, and so this moonlight can't all be quite on the up and up. Bits of mist shimmer inside these bars of moonlight, and they're absolutely unavoidable. There's no dodging and ducking through them like an Ocean's movie. Steele simply says,
"All right, slow. Just real slow."
Illyria steps forward into these bars of moonlight, gingerly, but shuffles their feet more quickly than they should, and these bars of moonlight suddenly become solid. They become solid blades of some milky white metal that suddenly and as we move too quickly over here, each time Illyria passes from one, sort of swinging a limb through the other one, Illyria is off balance, stumbling forward, and absolutely manages to catch some significant pain at the result of passing through these things. Illyria drops forward, falls down, and falling, manages to fall right on top of one of these bars of moonlight that becomes this band, this blade of milky white metal, and Illyria's hands drop right onto it. Igor, go slow. Chu rushes forward now here at the very end of the hallway. She stands in the threshold here into Tower Skullaport and helps Illyria to stand up off of this blade of milky white metal, and immediately starts to wrap up Illyria's hands in some torn cloth. It's a dangerous way. I know it is. Thank you for joining me, even though it's cost you something. Listen, this is how it goes. For anyone who doesn't stay safe in the castle here, for anyone who tries to act outside, anyone who tries to have an impact on the world, I can promise you, it's going to come with its cuts and bruises. Chu wraps these tightly around Illyria's hands as Illyria grimaces, and a few uncaught tears rush off of their face. But Chu grabs the bandages when she's done and says, "This is the price of doing something, of action. And you've paid this cost. You've done well. It's not a cost everyone's willing to pay." These moonbeams fade back from metal into simple moonbeams, and these traps reset. Igor, it is your turn for the last leg of this. you followed Illyria a few steps behind through these beams of moonlight, and you were able to move slowly enough. Even watching Illyria stumble and fall, you moved slowly enough until the very end. The very end, when Illyria fell forward and landed hands first on this blade of moonlight. You lurched for just a moment, and one of these blades catches you across the back. Oh! At the far edge, without any additional ghosts to help out, Igor, there's nothing that can be done for your back. And frankly, Illyria is not receiving any healing here, but we've made it through this hall of traps for the moment. The rest of Chu's gang traverses these traps as best they're able. Chu says,
I'm just glad they haven't changed it since the last time, but I can virtually guarantee they might even be different when we come back. With all this going on down in the woods, they're going to be changing things up. We're going to have to get back in the hard way. And what is the hard way? If that's not the hard way, what's the hard way?
asks Illyria.
Asking a beak,
says Chu, and grimaces. Steel sort of like hides a smile for a second, and then sobers up and says,
I'm sorry y'all got beat up so bad on the way out here, but I'm with Chu. Not everyone's willing to pay this price. Let's go.
And we head on out through Tower Scullaport. Tower Scullaport, we look up into it and we can see what almost look like balconies, except they're just simply the upper floors have been shattered, and this is the area where we were first ambushed on our way into the castle. These busted out floors are currently uninhabited as we traverse out into the parade grounds themselves. Chu leads the way, and Steel close behind, sort of marshalling the ranks here. Illyria follows Chu pretty closely. Igor, where do you think you are in this arrangement here? As we make our way out into the parade grounds, Chu leans over to Illyria as Steel is walking around kind of getting some of the others collected, making sure everyone's got their gear, making sure everyone else who needs a little bit of bandaging has got it. Chu leans over to Illyria and says,
Alright, so I'll tell you this. As you are well aware, it was hard enough for me to get you cleared with all the other lycan here. I'm going to tell you something. We don't have ghosts or vampires accompany us very often. And by very often, I suppose I mean never. Can we trust Igor? Of course you can trust Igor. Igor will never do anything to jeopardize me, and I would never do anything to jeopardize you. You can trust Igor through me.
Chu narrows her eyes.
I don't like it. I'm sorry, Illyria. We don't take other Duskin with us. We operate as lycan. We know lycan strategies, we know how each other operate, but I don't know what to do with a ghost. I do. Chu, I can guide Igor where he needs guidance, but frankly, he's a good navigator and he's smart. And he's silent. He's a ghost, but even before then, he was stealthy as the wind. I'm looking around at everything that you're wearing, and it tells me that perhaps an ability to not be seen would come in handy tonight, right?
This is a heart check. Chu nods and cocks her head off to the side, listening to the night. Her pierced nose wrinkles a little bit as she smells the night air and says,
Yeah? Well, you're right about that. We got to keep it quiet here. Alright. Well, if you know what to do with him, I'll handle the rest.
Illyria wanders over toward Igor, who has been hanging further back so you can hear what the others are saying. It is It's going to be a shadow roll for you. Hey, against matching 3s, you rolled a 6, which means you're going to get some good info here. As Illyria and Chu are in there having their little discussion, Steele has been collecting all of the new, every new person who emerges out of the tower, out of Tower Scullaport here, this ruined tower that is the true entrance into Castle Vesperale. He takes each new person coming out and redirects them against the wall into this little shadow outside of even the moonlight in a corner here just outside the door. As they climb down the rubble, he catches them and sends them off into this corner, and he's directed you there. He looks skeptical. Not hostile, but skeptical. And hanging back, you've been directed against this same wall. You hear lots of whispers. You manage to sort of get leaned in a little closer than anyone thinks because A, you're very sneaky, but B, Monty, the werebear, provides a lot of pretty good cover. As you sidle up next to Monty, sort of listening over his shoulder, you hear Duskin discussing what they're going to do tonight. The fox-faced girl says,
all right, I think that we've got a good chance of getting into the forest, okay? From here, I think, but Monty, you said that some of the scouts were reporting that we're going to have to go through the falls?
Yep, through the falls, and I'm not sure the ghost is going to be able to keep up. He's not going to have the running water problem like the vampires would, but we're going to be plenty far away from the castle. Might make it difficult.
That might make it difficult, but I suppose if the boss thinks it's okay, then it's fine with me.
Sure is.
Igor, you quickly slide back against the wall at a casual, unsuspecting distance from Monty as Monty casually turns around to look at you. You slide back in as Monty continues to talk with the rest of the crew.
All right, Steele? Do we have a plan for tonight? Yeah, the plan for tonight is reconnaissance. We're equipped to do a little bit more damage than that, right?
And the fox-faced girl nods, clutching her pack, which is laden down a bit more than the rest. You don't know what she's got in there, but Steele nods and says,
we've been hearing some reports. Chu and I were helping down in the infirmary, and down there, some of the lycan were saying this isn't Luca Brusca, at least not all of it. It sounds like they were responsible for an attack on some of the logging camps, but from further north, something else happened. Vampires.
Some sort of anxious muttering from around, and Steele kind of quiets them with a hand.
I know. Chu doesn't care who it was. Neither do I. And if you're with us, neither should you. Chu says somebody has to pay for what happened to all those people down in the dungeons right now. All those wounded being treated as we speak by vampires.
His eyes go a little grim for a moment, but he shakes his head and says,
if they're there in the castle, they're as safe as they can be. Safer than on the outside. But what happens next is a sabotage mission. Whatever's waiting for us out there in the woods, we're not going to be strong enough to take it head on. So we have to be quiet and we have to be careful. Okay? Now, I know a couple of you have got transformations probably tonight, yeah?
The fox-faced girl nods.
All right, you may have to hand off that pack to somebody if it happens too early.
At this point, all of the rest have come out of the tower and have collected along the wall, and there are about a dozen students here, in addition to some of the leadership, like Chu and Steel, and then you and me, Igor. Steel's eyes have gone a little grim, but looking here at the group, Steel says,
"We don't know exactly what we're going to find out there. That means we got to stay close and we got to stay focused, all right? I'm hearing some spell swords. That's what I heard."
There are some murmurs among the lycan here.
I know. Dangerous, okay? And it's worse than that. I've heard they're from House Calthea.
Hey, we can't do this.
We can do this. Chu thinks we can do this.
And Chu starts to sort of wander over here, looking at this group that Steel has assembled as they start to murmur in some significant fear.
Yep, you heard him. House Calthea. Far as I've heard, House Krakata is getting set up in the forest as well. Now, those of you... No, listen. Those of you who've lived in this forest, you know the danger that we're going up against. If you want to leave, I want you to leave right now. If you can't handle this, if you can't stay focused, and if you can't commit yourself to this mission, if you can't commit yourself to the revenge for what we've seen down in the basement of the castle today, all those people, children, you hear me? This wasn't just a mining camp, that was Luca Brusca. We're going to get them too. Any of you who can't commit to this because you're afraid or you don't think it's worth it, I want you to tell me right now. We'll send you back inside. You can wait for them to shut off the traps. You'll have a neat way back inside. I demand 2 things. You leave right now and you say nothing. Not to no upper class, not to no beaks. You say nothing. But if you're with me, if you're committed to passing judgment on the people that have harmed our kinfolk, living peacefully trying to find their next meal out in the forest, you come with me. We got the tools. We've got the organisation. We got all we need. We're going to get connected with the pack outside castle grounds. And we're going to take this thing on the offensive. We've got an assignment. That assignment is revenge.
No one turns to leave the group. Illyria slides along the wall next to Igor, and the two of us stand at a little distance away, and Illyria whispers so that only Igor can hear.
Igor, I was able to talk Chu into letting you accompany us, but I'm a little worried about you. I was able to talk to them about how useful you would be on a stealth mission like this, but do you think that you're okay? I know... Well, we're both a little rough around the edges right now.
And Illyria holds up their hands, wrapped in quickly bloodied bandages.
Neither of us got through that in great condition. Are you going to be alright? Are you up to do this? I know you probably don't feel the same connection to these people that I do, but Chu has taught me some things, and I think if I'm going to make it, I'm going to need friends like this. We both are. As long as you're willing to come with, I'm okay with it. I think I've got her pretty well convinced. But are you sure you want to join us? If you want to turn back now, none of us, and I mean none of us.
And they put a hand on your shoulder, which, curiously enough, sort of seems to rest there properly for the first time in a long time.
None of us will think any less of you.
How much do they trust me?
Well, considerably. I think Chu is looking for any help she can get right now, and I was able to make a pretty good case for you, so I think they trust you quite a bit at the moment.
Of course, I'm up to it.
It is important to you, so it is important to me.
Illyria's smile has definitely changed since they transformed for the first time. Changed in a way that seems permanent, but might not even be perceptible to anyone who hasn't known them for quite some time. But Igor, you know them. You know this smile is different, but you know it's a smile of appreciation. And with that, Illyria nods once to you, turns and nods to Chew, and we start to make our way out into the forest. As Chew and Steel lead the way out into the castle grounds, across the parade grounds, down the hill, through a circle of stones, and into the forest here on the castle grounds, we're following the River Argent. This is not the same path that we took before, but Steel turns back to the group and says,
Sounds like some of the skirmishes we've been hearing about, they've been happening down along the lower river. So we're going to stick to the upper river for now till we get to Gambler's Fall.
He sort of turns back and looks at Igor for a moment, suspiciously almost. But you know, after overhearing their discussion, that he's sort of looking for signs that you are dissolving or sort of being held back by the castle. And it doesn't seem that that is the case, at least not yet. You've been accepted into this mission, but it doesn't seem like it makes you one of the club. And so as the rest of the group sort of walks on, looking over their shoulders at you occasionally, but not paying you too much mind, you've got some time to look into the items that you retrieved from Professor Ertrek. Of course, you were not allowed to retrieve the long dirk covered in runes, but you were able to get a few other things. One of which is a talon knife, and the second of which is a clear potion smelling of chamomile. However, we have a few other items here as well that have yet to be identified. A polished hardwood stick smelling of petrichor, that's the smell you get after the rain. A very messy quill, like a very messy quill. It seems to be just absolutely sloppy. A seashell, and a lump of clay. That's 3 for the lump of clay, and I think that's going to be enough for us to make this vote for right now. I don't know about y'all, but I'm feeling excited about it. Here we go. Full miss on this front. Igor, as we walk through the forest here, you glide along and you take this lump of clay out of a torn piece of cloth, tied up with a vine and fastened to the end of a stick that Illyria is carrying over their shoulder right now. Igor, you take this lump of clay and you press it into your hands. You're delicate at first, unsure what sort of strange effects it might have. And pressing it down, you don't recognize it in any way. You've never seen anything like this, not in your time as a young child back in your gate town. This doesn't seem to be an alchemical component. You don't recognize this in the least. Pressing it on your hands, you don't see what this might do. As you walk through the forest here, the rush of the river on your left side, we pass further and further away from the castle, and it is lost in the trees behind us. At first glance, very hard to tell what this clay might be, and you're certainly getting some odd looks from your current companions, including Illyria, as Illyria just sort of like smiles at you and looks down at this thing. I don't know. Let's see if I can give you some help here. Against an 8 and a 10, I rolled a 4 on a miss. Oh boy, oh boy. I was trying to help. Illyria grabs onto a bit of this stuff and starts to knead it around in their hands, but it quickly gets very sticky and they start to shake it off. Illyria grabs onto this stuff and starts to just like stretch it in random bits and pull it apart. It starts to get a little bit more pale and takes off some of that bluish hue that it took on when you were manipulating it. And as it does so, Illyria says, Oh, my hands. And looking at Illyria's hands, they are sort of gnarled up, like someone experiencing like arthritis or something. But Illyria's hands sort of seize up in this rough way, and I can't move them right. I can move them a little. Take this away from me. Igor quickly shapes it into a little humanoid figure and chucks it at a tree to see what happens next. Unfortunately, Illyria was not able to provide you with any advantage here. Igor, you chuck this thing away from yourself, not wanting to hold onto it for too long in case it might be dangerous. Illyria's hands start to relax a little bit, but it seems that just sort of like stretching it out and handling it really, really messily was not the right answer. As you chuck it against this tree here, you suddenly see something absolutely horrifying. The whole group stops stock still as this clay slams into the tree, stretches out, and you hear... For just a moment, it sounds exactly like Orif Barcerand, and looking at the tree, we can see what appears to be Orif Barcerand's melted face. Where the clay hit. The clay splattered across this tree, and now there is this sort of melted, it's almost like a melting wax mask of Orif Barcerand on the tree. It made that noise, and then just... and then goes silent and still. Absolutely horrifying. You hear hisses and growls from some of the lycan surrounding you as this tree goes still once more, but this sort of weird splat of clay sticks up against the bark. Professor Urtrick, as a spy, would have certainly use for distractions, but very notable use for disguises. As the clay continues to sit on this tree, you notice that it starts to lose some of that blue tinge that it had when it was on your blue skin. It starts to lose some of the pale aspect that it had when it was on Illyria's pale skin. And now, as it sits there on this tree bark, it starts to take on sort of a tree bark texture to it and color. And peeling this clay down off of it and gently rolling it back into a ball, it ceases, it makes no noise, it doesn't reform into anything else. But this would come in some serious use in trying to create very convincing disguises. The rest of the lycan look at you in horror as you peel this melting Professor Barcerand face off of this tree branch and gently work it back into a ball and stow it back in the pack. I think Steele starts and then Illyria interrupts.
So, what in the
name of all the gods was that? Igor! Gods, that was terrible to hold and even more terrible to see and to listen to. What in the hells was that?
I think that we need to perhaps knead it with a sample of whoever we are trying to create a disguise of, or something like that.
A disguise, you think? Huh. I guess I just handled it too roughly, but it didn't react well to me. Do you think that means that Professor Urtrick was disguised as Professor Barcerand at some point recently? Maybe that was the last disguise that Professor Urtrick used. You don't think they're the same person, do you? Have we? No, we've seen Professor Barcerand since then. So hopefully, every time we were talking to Professor Barcerand, it was really Professor Barcerand. Yes, I don't know what just happened, but that was hellish, and I don't want to see it again while we're out here. All right, keep that put away. Gods.
It is possible that he disguised himself as
Professor Barcerand. Yes.
The other lycan are just sort of like looking at you wide-eyed, not quite sure how to handle you right now, Igor, who just threw a magic face against a tree and scared the hell out of everyone because it was a very startling teacher that you just threw against the wall. Professor Barcerand is a notably spooky guy, even among Duskin.
All right, we gotta get back on our way here. Let's just keep it quiet, all right?
As we progress further and deeper into the forest, the discussion starts to die away as we hear sounds in the forest. Nothing immediately leaps out as sounds of conflict, and Chu, with a bit of a hush, says,
All right, Steele. I want you to keep everyone quiet and send out the scouts, all right?
Okay. All right. Monty, take that pack. All right. Lady, you're headed out.
Lady, who seems to be the girl with the fox face, she looks up at the moons, the 7 moons in their strange, incomprehensible orbit above, and as Lady heads forward, we start to see the red hair down her back start to spread. Down her neck, across her shoulders, down her arms, and as Lady passes between a few trees, suddenly there is a sizable fox, a classic red-bodied with a white chest and belly, heading off into the forest in front of us. Another turns into a weasel and starts to head forward. As we hold here, Steele sort of puts up a fist and indicates for us all to hold on for a moment. These creatures rush forward into the forest. Illyria says,
We don't have any of the owls or the ravens with us. It seems like they would be pretty handy here.
No. Chu.
He leans in a little bit more as Chu sort of hangs out at the very front of the group, distracted, waiting for the scouts to come back. Steele kind of whispers in Illyria's ear, Igor, you're quiet enough to be close enough to hear it if you wish.
I think Chu really sees this as not just a Duskin problem, not just a lycan problem, but a pack problem. She's got relatives that are not just in the pack, but like ranking in the pack. You saw one. Her brother is a member of the pack as well, and if he's in trouble, she's gonna see this as a pretty personal vendetta. And yeah, I mean, Eternal Hunger, we've got a few. There are a few lycan that are birds, but not here at the castle. None of the students. And his students are either unaffiliated or they're with a different pack.
A different pack? Are there multiple packs here at school?
Not organized like we are, no. But yeah, some of them can trace their bites back to bigger packs, different ones. There's another one that's kind of close by that we just don't get along with real well.
Chu turns over her shoulder and just puts a finger to her lips. And Steele quiets down again and says,
It's the pack of the Wild Guardians. We're pretty sure that they're not coming down this far south, but if they are, it's gonna mean a war between the lycan at Castle Vesperale. I'm not even sure we could survive that with everything going on right now. But the Wild Guardians, they live way up north in the forest. Probably close to where you're from.
Up near the Oxbends.
Yeah. They've got something up there that they defend with tooth and claw. And, well, we don't get along with them too good.
okay? I mean, are you sure that I'm not from some other pack? Are we sure that this is where...
No, we're sure. We're sure your transformation schedule, being a wolf and all, and, well, when you told Chu about those armbands that they were wearing...
He reaches into his pack and pulls out a yellow armband marked with the very same insignia. It is that horseshoe shape, sort of a big U, and inside that sort of horseshoe shape there are spikes.
Your eternal hunger, I promise.
All right. But what quarrel do we have with the Wild Guardians? What can we really afford to be fighting each other like this?
I mean, no, we can't. But that doesn't stop them. No, we wish they would join us. The hunting grounds that we hold here, I mean, I say we, but really it's the pack. It's not us. It's the larger pack. The one that hunts out in the forest here, the one that holds most of the territory to the north of the castle. That pack, it's running thin. It's running thin on hunting grounds, it's running thin on prey. We gotta stay fed, and as I'm sure you've noticed...
And with this, I think on cue, there are some rumbles from the bellies of some of these gang members here who didn't get a chance to get anything to eat on our way out of the castle.
As I'm sure you've noticed, that hunger is nothing to mess with. You can't bargain with it. You can't negotiate with it. You can't run from it. It's just there. We wish they would come down and help us fight our way south into vampire territory, but, well, houses Calthea and Crocata, who I'm hearing are in the area, they put up a pretty bloody front. We can't break through it. And so we're trapped between the Wild Guardians to the north and whatever it is they're protecting from us, their kin, or at least what should be. Trapped between them and the vampires down to the south. This castle is one of the furthest south positions that we lycan can even hold on to. And even that's disputed territory. Lots of other students. I mean, the headmistress herself is a vampire, so it's hardly seized territory. Some people, Javik being one of them, consider it enemy territory. But then again, we could be in Wild Guardians territory, and he would call them all enemies too.
All right. With everything that we've been seeing from Lukabrusca, we may need to be finding a lot more friends than enemies.
You're right. And we'll do what we can, but it's hard. Some of these packs have got feuds going back generations. Some say that the two of us, Eternal Hunger and the Wild Guardians, have been feuding since the beginning. Since the moon first blessed us and first blessed them. I don't know. I haven't studied back that far. I'm working on it. I've learned a couple of languages, and I'm doing a lot of reading, a lot more than I used to, and I'm finding out about these things. I probably know more about this conflict than most, but some of these run too deep.
Igor says,
"It sounds like a sticky place to be."
Suddenly, Chu is back in the conversation.
Yeah, it's sticky, all right. But as much as I appreciate Steele giving you a bit of an education, it's time to focus up, all right? Whatever our disputes are with the Wild Guardians, they're up north, and we don't have any indication that they're coming down south. All of these refugees what are coming down from the forest, they're all Eternal Hunger, and it seems that all of them are reporting that whatever got them was either Lukabrusca or vampires. So we're not going to worry about Wild Guardians. Not today. All right? Focus up.
At this point, the scouts come back and via a series of squeaks and little fox yips, we begin to understand the situation here in the forest. Approaching Gambler's Fall, Illyria and Igor look in awe as we approach Gambler's Fall and witness the battleground here. This battlefield strewn with bodies. Here in the dark, hard to see, although the light of the moon does illuminate a few of them. We are along the river right now, and only a few of us are up in front close enough to see, but there are dark shapes, and we have now reached the point where the crash of the waterfalls themselves are audible. Down below, strewn on both sides of the river, there are individuals limping back and forth through the water, trying to drag companions, trying to move into more defensive positions. There are no sounds of swords, but as we approach, we see some of these individuals moving through the water. We can see who they are. We see Professor Barcerand. He currently, hung over his shoulders, is carrying a small professor who is absolutely covered in hair. You've recognized this little gnome professor before, but you've never seen him covered in long, coarse hair like this. And you know this to be one of the lycan professors. You don't know what they've transformed into, but they are shrinking by the second back into their smaller gnome form. Professor Barcerand slings this individual onto the creek bed nearby and sort of lined up with some of the others here who are wounded. Another professor, Professor Brisley, is currently down on hands and knees, sort of going in between these injured folks, patching up wounds. But these are beaks. There are a few upperclassmen here as well that you don't recognize, people from the Advanced Studies wing. But as Professor Barcerand turns and starts to look around through the water, across this river here, into the forest to the north, looking for any other professors that might have been injured.
No! Hey, you over there! Who is that? Who's that on the ground?
He starts to wade through the water in a panic, and his top hat falls off and starts to rush off down in the stream. He proceeds forward without a care and grabs onto someone who is being carried in toward the castle grounds. He grabs her and lifts her up with massive strength. Even though he's got these weird spindly arms and legs, he's very strong, and holding her up above the water, mumbling all the time as he goes, he says,
"Oh no, not tonight. No.
A tear starts to fall down his cheek, and he lays Madame Francesca on the bank.
No. All right, you're gonna be okay. Headmistress, come on, stay with me.
And he slaps her across the cheek, and her head lolls in the proper direction. Instead of just sort of limping at her shoulder, her eyes blink open, and we can see a bright moon glow.
That's right. Come on, Francie. No, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be all right. You hear me? We're gonna get you back to the castle. You're gonna be just fine. You just stay awake. Keep those moon eyes bright at me, yeah? Come on. These white tattoos all over you don't mean nothing, do they? No, they mean you're powerful. They mean you can't be killed. They mean nothing anybody does is gonna be able to take you down. You are the great Madame Francesca, and you're gonna be fine.
Leaving some of these other lycan professors here on the bank, he grabs onto her, and both of them, Professor Barcerand and Madame Francesca, shatter into shadows that suddenly dart off in the direction of the castle over the top of the forest. Barely visible in the light of the 7 moons above. Igor says,
"He seems to be taking this hard.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely seems to love the school and his position, but that cut him deep. That was Madame Francesca. What happened in the forest here? Do you think that whatever...
In the distance, maybe a mile away, across the river to the north, off of castle grounds, a deep growl. A growl so deep it almost sounds like a landslide. And trees move on the horizon. Something massive, bigger than wagons, big enough to be bumping up against multiple trees at once. A half dozen enormous old growth trees are shaking. A flock of ravens caws and flies up and flies across the moons for just a moment as everyone on the banks and everyone hidden here in Chu's party go absolutely silent as this crunching and cracking and quaking branches crashes northward away from castle grounds.
The beast,
whispers Chu.
That was the beast.
Igor says,
Do you think it was a wild guardian?
Chu whispers,
No.
Steele, looking absolutely shocked, says,
Chu, there's no reason for it to be this far south. You don't really think...
I do think that was the beast. That was hunger itself.
and a wild glint, a crazed grin comes across her face.
The beast. Hunger itself. We've been blessed. We've been blessed. Listen to me. Hey, hunger, listen up.
Speaking now to the fox and the weasel, both in their transformed states, speaking to all the rest of these lycan who are not on their current moon phase to actually transform, whispering to these creatures. All these lycan here. Chu says,
This is a blessing. The beast, hunger itself, has come to bless our endeavours tonight. This mission of revenge has been sanctioned by the very highest levels of the pack of the Eternal Hunger.
She growls, almost unable to control herself.
That was the hunger. I don't know what it did to professors, and I'm sure we're going to be finding out soon, but it's on its way back north. Whatever might have called it out of its caverns, whatever it is, it was this. This mission, it means something. It means something to hunger itself, and we are going to succeed. We can't fail. Not anymore. Not with this blessing. No matter what we come up against, no matter what happens, we are going to execute the revenge of the hunger on whatever dared to attack our pack. We're not just a school gang tonight. You hear me? We're not just a ragtag bunch of students. We are members of the pack. We have seen the beast itself. This is a blessing reserved not even for those. My brother ain't even seen the beast himself. We've seen it.
Illyria says quietly.
I don't think I really got a good glimpse of...
But Chu cuts them off and says,
We've seen it. We are blessed, we are sanctioned, we move now.
Illyria catches hold of Steele and says,
I don't know what we just saw, but to me that seems like a direction we shouldn't be moving.
Steel is looking wide-eyed. He is in shock as Chu moves forward along the upper edges of Gambler's Fall. There are a few stone walkways that might be able to take a very balanced individual without falling down the waterfalls. There will be some danger falling down the waterfalls. It is a multi-story drop, but it's divided up into multiple sort of sub-waterfalls that sort of crashes into smaller pools and then falls over those pools into different areas. This battlefield down below is still occupied by some professors that may well be vampires. We see a couple of ghosts flitting about, but we hide for the most part as the predominantly lycan professors are continuing to collect the wounded here. We don't see anyone who has died. We don't see anyone being carried corpse-like out of the water. It seems like everyone here who is wounded has at least survived their wounds. We take the path up above, passing along narrow little walkways of stone that some of them seem to be naturally forming, some of them seem to have been placed here, large boulders carried by, maybe Monty or some of the other larger lycan in the history of the school, but we are up along this very top level of the falls, looking down below when we're not ducking and running at the professors down below. Chu heads across and the rest of the lycan follow her, but Steel is still here in shock.
The beast. The beast. It's like she said. The beast is hunger. It's hunger itself.
He's a little shaky right now.
Remember what I said when the moon first blessed our pack? The beast is said to be that very first creature that took on that blessing. A dire wolf. A dire wolf from the outer frontier. It should be so much further north right now. I don't know what it would be doing this far south unless Chu is right.
And he shakes his head at the ground.
Unless Chu is right and this mission really is blessed. And we're gonna succeed. I've been reading about this. There's a lot of stories that get told about the hunger, the original hunger. But if that shape, if that thing we just saw moving around really is the first hunger, it is an absolutely enormous dire wolf. I mean, I don't know how there could be wounded down below. The stories say that the hunger can eat any person in a single bite. Anyone. Even orcs, even ogres, horses in single bites, wagons cut in half by its jaws. I didn't even know it was real. I was starting to read, and these damn historians from the towers, they talk about wild hunger like it's some kind of superstition or something. Gods, the first hunger. They say it drew the blood of the first lycan in our pack. I don't even know if I can trust these books I'm reading anymore. They say that it's debatable who was the first lycan, but I mean, it was us. All of our stories say that it was us. We've got years of stories that say that dire wolf drew the blood of the first lycan in ages long past. That was the first one to carry the blood of the eternal hunger and to pass it on to the next.
So that is some ancient multi-story wolf bigger than trees, but
yeah.
And Steel starts to grin.
That's exactly what it is. It's the embodiment of hunger. It's the hunger of the moon herself.
He, in almost a half trance, starts to wander away toward the rest of the group.
A blessing. A blessing from hunger.
Illyria and Igor are left standing here on the edge of the river, about to cross the waterfalls, following the rest of the pack. And Illyria says,
I mean, this got crazy, right, Igor? Can we do this? I feel something, Igor.
Igor says,
Why do I think that is maybe not what they heard? Igor, I can feel it. Igor?
Illyria's teeth grow out a little bit more canine, and those claws come back on their hands.
Igor, I can feel it. I am ravenous. Igor, I have to know what's there.
Illyria starts to step across the waterfall, and as birds fly overhead, as creatures of the night make their little noises, as you follow Igor, in response to every single one, you hear Illyria whip their head around and then moan with the hunger deep inside them right now. The hunger's blessing has indeed befallen the lycan here. Perhaps our mission itself is blessed. We did it, gang. We did it. We made it through. We made it through the whole episode. We have absolutely been introduced to a new bit of lore. Between Steele and the rest of this gang here, we have learned, frankly, a ton about the lycan dynasties nearby. We've learned quite a bit this episode. To recap some of that, it seems that the vampire houses, Calthea and Crocata, who we know from our little eavesdropping, we have not told this to Chu and Steele yet, but we know that Madame Francesca and has advised Envoy Rhaenyra, her sister, away from getting those houses involved, but we know that they intend to. That is where Envoy Rhaenyra is headed right now. So Envoy Rhaenyra from House Dahlia is headed to get connected with some of the other vampire houses Crocata and Calthea. They are the sort of, they're right there on the border between lycan territory to the north and Duskin and vampire territory to the south. They are sort of the front lines of the vampire presence in that southern territory there. So they are right there on the edge of lycan territory. Up to the north in lycan territory, it seems like the larger pack, the pack of the Eternal Hunger, is sort of trapped between the vampires to the south, especially houses Crocata and Calthea, and then to the north, another group of lycan who don't seem to get along with them. They're protecting something up there from even other lycan. Seems like there's a long-standing feud between these houses, but not quite the mortal enemies that the Eternal Hunger have against houses Krakata and Calthea. We know there are vampires involved here. We know there is darkness afoot, even on top of the Luca Brusca hunters sort of rushing around in the forest, hidden there, doing their hunting, whatever they might be up to right now. And finally, as we reach the end here, we discover an important bit of lore from the pack of the Eternal Hunger. They all... We're not quite sure of the relationship yet, whether they are led by or whether they simply worship this massive dire wolf. Now, as people who have hung around in expeditioneering camps, you and I, Igor and Illyria, the two of us have absolutely heard stories about dire wolves. There might be dire bears that get maybe kind of close to this size, but no dire wolves. Dire wolves are like notably huge, like the size of 2 horses, but I mean, not this big. This was the size of like a small ship. It was absolutely massive, whatever was moving around out there in the forest, and Illyria can feel it in their gut right now, literally in their gut, as the hunger itself is starting to overcome them. And if this really was the hunger, if this really was the dire wolf, this cosmic wolf, truly, if this really was the thing told of in stories passed on by generations through ages of the pack of the Eternal Hunger, if this really is the hunger itself, it certainly feels like it, then maybe this mission really is blessed in some way by hunger. Whatever it was absolutely massive, and Illyria certainly seems to be feeling the same thing that the rest of these lycan are feeling. So there we have it. A bit of review for what happened today. Hogwarts TV says, ooh, I've got chills. And Marin Bear says, me too, hippie. Hey, y'all, I am so thankful for y'all hanging around here with me. This is such a weird thing. I know it is, to sort of be involved in this way. And even for y'all to just sort of catch up with this and not have, this isn't Critical Role. This isn't Dimension 20 where y'all have all these different, performers to like fall in love with. I really appreciate you joining me nonetheless. I had hoped that the ability to like participate for yourselves was going to be enough that people would be interested in this and enjoy it, but I am so thankful that y'all are here letting me tell my little stories here. Man, is it exciting. We are just now entering, I think, kind of a new arc here. This adventure outside the castle, this is not going to be like some little goof 'em up, like 2-session thing. We may be spending a few sessions here outside of the castle. There might be a bit of an arc here. So, with that said, let's talk about some of our current objectives, shall we? Marinvez says, it's cool. I'm glad I decided to join in on a Wednesday. As am I. I thank you all very much for being here. If anyone is joining us that doesn't know what this is, we are currently wrapping up a session, but go ahead and use the lore command if you want to know more about this campaign. You can use the bit.ly link for the Lorekeeper's Tome, bit.ly/Lorekeeper's Tome, capital L, capital T, and that will bring you to the character sheets, etc. And then recetus.fandom.com is going to bring you over to the wiki, wherein we've got sort of larger information about the world in general. Go ahead and use the links command if you would like to find the playlists, if you would like to find the Discord where we do all of our midweek discussion. Please join us over there, and thank you so much for being here on a Wednesday for Side Cannons! And if you would like to find more of these, if you're just joining us and you don't know about the history of this campaign, you can find these episodes using the of course, this link is going to be within that link tree for Sidecar Stories, but you can use the playlists command at any time, and that will bring you to a list of all of our collected playlists for all the different stuff that we do, as much as is uploaded right now, which is most of it, I will say. So, if If you want to find past episodes, you can find wherever you listen to podcasts, you can look for side cannons, as in ready, aim, cannons. Or you can head over to YouTube for the Sidecar Stories YouTube channel. It will have the video versions of this as well. So there is that. Y'all, thank you so very, very much. I appreciate you dearly. Let's talk about our quests right now, so that we can understand what we're trying to aim toward next. And in addition, y'all know the question I'm going to ask is, have you advanced any of these? Quests? If you can make a compelling case, I'll say yes to most things. So let's take a look at them. 1-star quest. Identify the items from Professor Ertrick, the Lucabrusca spy that was embedded inside Castle Vesperale. A 4-star quest. Avenge your own death. A 2-star quest. Make a good impression on Pinelli. And a 3-star quest. Pursue academics. Y'all go ahead and let me know how you feel about those quests right now, and if you would like to add any to them. They can be as complicated or as simple as you wish. Basically, if y'all ask me a question with like a huge complex answer, I'll make it a more difficult one. If you want to just sort of, answer a very simple, very local question, or explore something very simple and local, something like that, it could be as simple as build a spear. It could be as complex as design a new type of spear imbued with arcane energy. It can be as complicated or as simple as you like. Sander, have a good one. Let me know over in Discord if you've got any ideas for quests that you want to add, Igor. Add for Igor. Let's take a look at Illyria's as well while y'all are chatting about the Igor quests. Illyria, return to Blackwater, ready to settle down. I mean, I've definitely seen something here, but I don't know if I'm gonna call it a full... I mean, no, I'm gonna give myself... this is a 5-star quest, so I get 1 tick. Each progress is 4 ticks, and I need 10 progress to totally fill this thing up. And so I am now at 2 progress total for returning to Blackwater, ready to settle down. 3 stars, study under a lycan mentor. I'm gonna say I got some progress for that one. I think knowing about the sort of history of what I am is hugely important. Discover the truth of the underbrush. Nope. Protect Professor Brana's secret identity. I don't think I've done anything notable on that front right now. And then a 3-star quest, pursue expeditioneering. Again, I don't think I've made any progress on that one. So I'm currently, my highest one is study under a lycan mentor. Between Chu's gang and Professor Brisley, I think I'm in an okay shape here. I'm at 4 out of 10. I'm making some decent progress. Let's take a look over at Igor. Let's take a look. Jem says academics seem to be getting closer. And you know what? I'm going to allow this to count. This is definitely like, in spite of the fact that he doesn't really look like it or necessarily seem like it, Steele has become kind of an academic and is kind of teaching you through some of these things. And so I am going to go ahead and give you some progress on that. That brings you to 4 out of 10. Probably not a great time to try and complete that quest, but absolutely making progress on it. And then let's see. I think Marinver says, I think we made progress on looking at the items. Oh, you most certainly have. Yes, indeed. This is a 1-star quest, which means I think you get like, let's see, how much is it? Oracles, momentum, inflicting harm. Where is it?
Where is it?
Reach a milestone. Here we go. Troublesome quest. You're gonna mark 3 progress. Bip, bip, bip. Which I think I might have mismarked last time. Because what happened here? Because you only had 2, which doesn't make any sense because for this level of quest, it doesn't operate in increments of 2. Let's see. So then there was the knife and then I think you're at 6 out of 10. So you could try and complete this quest. Let's see. You could, although I don't really suggest it until you get to like 7. That gives you good chances, and then if you wait until you're all the way full up to 10, that gives you the best chances, of course. So I like that. Jem says, we seem to have left Penelli behind. At least for right now, yeah. And you still have an open slot here, which is interesting because I think Marinver says, let's see, well, I think we made progress in looking at the items. Indeed. Orly Rose says, I think we need something for exploring / helping friends or something else outside of academics of school. I think that could be a really good idea. Let's talk about, let's write a new quest right now. What do we think? And this is a vow, is how the game technically presents this. Quests I find are a little bit easier to latch onto, and in case we don't always play Ironsworn, I'm big on using mechanics in different games. So I really love this idea of sort of setting your own quests, and so I'm calling them quests for right now. But what is it that Igor, as of tonight, would sort of vow to do? Do you think that I'll just sort of spit out a couple of options and we can talk through some of them here. Do we think that Igor would be mostly focused on like keeping Illyria safe? Would Igor be mostly focused on like getting himself out of this alive? Would Igor be focused on on like learning about like what the current sort of social political climate of this area is right now, like trying to understand better, like, okay, how is Calthea and Krakata involved in all this stuff going on? Is you know, like what's the deal with the feud between Eternal Hunger and Wild Guardians? What's the deal there? So that's a possibility. Or it could be like really like crazy simple stuff, like just, you know, keep Illyria safe for one night. That wouldn't be a super interesting one, but you know, like get Illyria. It could be something more difficult, like convince Illyria to leave this behind and not participate in this or something. But I do like the idea of like, yeah, kind of a vow to do something that isn't so grand scale, like avenging your own death, but it also isn't necessarily tied to being at school doing school stuff. I like the sound of this. So let me see. And Orly Rose, wait, hold on. Yeah, Orly Rose, you may need to, I'm going to read it in just a second. Maybe that will make it clear, but because there's a delay, I don't know which one you were necessarily picking out as the one you were interested in, so you might need to rewrite that. Let me see. Orly Rose says, I'm just trying to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Yeah, Orly Rose says, so I think that because he isn't lycan, he might be able to see or do things that the hunger prevents the others from doing. Okay, an interesting idea. Yeah, you might be able to sort of get eyes on things they would have a much harder time with. Your stealth is like, your sort of recon ability is kind of unmatched as a ghost plus a very sneaky individual. Absolutely. Let's see. Marinver says, maybe try to see if he can find some clues as to what this beast might be. Okay, that would definitely be a good one if you wanted to pursue that. If you wanted to sort of like learn about the beast, that's absolutely, that would absolutely make a good quest. Orly Rose says, so like he would be gathering intel, learning things, but also trying to keep Illyria safer than they would be otherwise. A good point. I would say that's probably a combination of a few different ones. Let's see. Hogwarts Hippie says, I think he would definitely be more focused on protecting Illyria, but also I think he should do some investigating / gathering intel. Basically, I think collecting intel / info / history. So, I think I like the sounds of this. Let's go ahead and, Orly Rose says, I'm terrible at making firm decisions. Hey, Orly Rose, don't worry about it. I'm going to help to sort of guide what might be the most sensible options here. So, I will say that protecting Illyria is something that, like, I mean, physically protecting, that could get kind of wild. I'm going to say that, like, information is kind of the best, information and, like, scouting is kind of the best thing that you can do anyway. So, let's make this vow a little bit more focused on what information you're going to try and gather. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to throw two options at you. Option A or option B. Option A is going to be an easier quest. It's going to be a smaller quest. It is going to be to learn about the beast specifically. So it's going to be a smaller quest, which means it's not going to take as much time, but it's also not going to give as much XP when you're finished with it. And remember, XP is essentially it's currency you can spend on level up stuff. So you're not going to get quite as much of it. The scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 XP for succeeding at stuff, or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right? No, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you do super well, if you really pursue it out to the end, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 if you only sort of like kind of succeed at your mission. If you only chase it down part way. Basically, if you try to end the quest too early and it doesn't go super well, you might get 1 less XP, or you might get none if it goes super, super poorly. Basically, let's not think about all those complications. Essentially, option A is learn about the beast. This beast that was in the forest, is it really the thing that they think it is? Is it, if it is that thing, what should you know about it? Because that's just sort of one thing, I'm going to call that one a little bit on the easier side. Option B is going to be a more difficult quest. That means it's going to take longer, but it also means you're going to get more XP for it. And that option B is going to be to sort of, just sort of like investigate the, I'm going to try to word it less boring than this, but investigate the socio-political climate of this territory. Try to see, like, what's the deal with, kind of what I explained, like, what's the deal with House Grakata and Calthea down to the south? What's the deal with the Wild Guardians up to the north? How does the Eternal Hunger fit into all of this? So, option A, learn about the beast specifically, shorter quest, slightly less XP. Or option B, learn about the whole thing. Try to learn about the wider sort of implications, the wider faction conflict going on. That's going to take longer. It's going to offer a little bit more XP. It just depends on which one you are most curious about right now. And I would say, kind of be true to yourself here. Which one is... I'm sure that learning about one will cause you to learn a bit about the other, but which one is more fascinating to you? Which one's more interesting to you right now? A or B? Let's see. Orly Rose says, I think B, because I suspect that if it's nefarious, we will learn that by investigating the territory in general. Okay, interesting. Jem says, to the beast, not to eat me. Hogwarts Hippie says, option B. Jem says option A, and Marinver also says option A. Hogwarts Hippie says, I want to know all the info. Okay, so right now it looks like we've got 2 and 2. So I'm going to need a tiebreaker from somebody, and this is a great time for any of y'all lurking in chat right now. If you just want to pop in and offer a bit of guidance here, this might be a good time for it. Because right now we've got 2 votes for A and 2 votes for B. We need a tiebreaker. Orly Rose says, also, we have heard, and sure enough, in the castle with the wounded, that we will keep things going. Let's see. Hogwarts TV says, we need Sander to break the tie. Yeah, we might indeed. Any of y'all lurkers, now is the time. Now is the time to make your voice heard. Option A, learn about this beast, or option B, just try to learn about the territory at large. And like I said, there's absolutely going to be some overlap, but this is just, whichever one interests you the most. Don't try to think, I was trying to be forthcoming, but don't bother too much about like which one's worth more XP or whatever. Which one's the most interesting to you right now? Jem says, why did Sander go to sleep? Good grief. Yeah, if we're still at a tie by the end of this, I will just ping him in Discord later, because he's definitely he's involved here every single week. It is right for us to give him a bit of a tiebreaker if we don't have a decision by the end of this. But yeah, I think Marinver says, okay, I will switch to B. Okay, all right. Yeah, indeed, there is no wrong answer. No wrong answer whatsoever. Watch, now we're gonna get 2 lurkers pop in and say A. Jem says, no, Marinver, you traitor. No. Everybody, I think this is going to be a grand quest. It's going to take a little bit longer. I'm going to call this one a 2-star quest. This is going to be not a troublesome journey, not the easiest, but a dangerous journey. Dangerous quest, we're going to call it. And this is going to be to learn about the let's see, what do we want to call this? What's the name of this quest essentially? Learn about the faction dynamics in the territory. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Now, I can make this like a little bit harder if you want to really like go in deep, but I think to sort of identify the normal stuff in the territory, plus at the rate that experience is currently going, I'm gonna call it a little bit of an easier one. That way it can sort of like, what was that? Did y'all hear that out there? It sounded like a speedboat. But you know what? No, I am gonna call this one a 3-star quest instead of a 2-star, because I think we're about to get a ton of information on it, and so I want y'all to get as much XP as possible. There we go. I'm doing as much as I can to get y'all as much XP as I can. But yeah, we're gonna learn about the faction dynamics a lot coming up, and so let's go ahead and swear this vow. Let's go ahead and do this sucker. When you swear upon iron to complete a quest. Now we don't do the like upon iron thing with this, but there is a tradition in the realms of Recitus to swear upon stones. Especially stones that have come from the towers, and so I think as someone from the towers, you're from a gate town. I think Ego would probably pick up a stone here and swear upon it, even if you're not sure it was ever part of the towers. Some say that all stones on the ground were once part of the towers because of how ancient it all is. But you're gonna swear an iron vow. You're gonna roll plus heart. Let's see. If you make this vow to a person or community with whom you have a bond, add +1. I don't believe that you do. So let's find out, shall we? Against a 2 and a 7. You did roll a 6. Which means that gets you up to, I mean, that does get you to a 6. Can you get a 7? Could I get you a strong hit on this? Let's see, on a strong hit. Determined, if I take +1 momentum. Okay, frankly, the difference is +1 momentum or +2 momentum, so it's not a huge deal. Oh, wait, can you cancel that? No, you cannot. Okay, that's okay. That is all right. No fear. You currently have 6 momentum. You've got a weak hit here to start your quest, but you got this sucker. You got it. And you're going to envision what you can do to find a path forward. You're determined, but you begin your quest with more questions than answers. And I think that seems to represent pretty well where we are right now. You've got a lot of questions and maybe not a lot of answers. You know that this beast is around. You know that there's this beast that they just call the Hunger. This dire wolf of all dire wolves out here in the forest. Something to look forward to. Jem says, I have to get some sleep. I hope that you do, Gems. Enjoy. This has been an absolutely lovely session. I'm just gonna make sure Illyria doesn't have anything extra to do right now. No, I think I'm going to. You know what I could do? Actually, no, my spirit's not great, so I'm not going to do it right now, but I may decide to forsake this quest of protecting Professor Brana's secret. I'm going to hold on to this discovering the truth of the underbrush, because Illyria is going to actively, now that we're out in the forest, Illyria is going to actively look for the underbrush. Illyria wasn't anticipating getting another chance to like take a stab at this, so here we go. Gang, thank you so much for being here. My name is Sam, this is Sidecar Stories. If you want to know everything there is to know about Sidecar Stories, go ahead and use the links command. That will take you to the link tree, linktr.ee/sidecar stories. that will take you to basically all the things you need to know. I've got the new link up there for the playlists as well. Folks, if you want to know anything about that, including and most especially the playlists and the Discord, please head to that link. That is the link to follow. That is the link to share. And finally, folks, it has been grand. I love you all, and I will see you later. Let's see if there's anybody to raid over to. It doesn't look like it. Hey, y'all. Thanks for being here. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you tomorrow with a bit of information on how we might fundraise me a new router so that I can stop having these internet drops. I really adore y'all. Thank you so much. This was a really fun session. Bye-bye, gang.